Applicant tracking systems, or ATS, are what job hunters face when they apply online for positions. Today's session will help you make sure that your resume is able to get through these systems and into hiring manager hands. I'm Celia Callahan, Director of the Office of Career Development at Thomas Edison State University. ATS were developed to meet government requirements of employers to report data on job applicants for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Employers realized these systems could also weed out unqualified or less qualified applicants. ATS use artificial intelligence to go through hundreds or thousands of resumes in seconds. It would take humans hours. But ATS can be challenging for applicants. Many ATS cannot read certain formats, characters, or fonts. Additionally, the system's predictive hiring tools, or data analytics, rule candidates in or out based on keyword searches. But those keyword searches are only as good as they've been programmed to be. If employers see enough qualified candidates, they don't tend to question whether the system worked, though they may have missed out on equally or more qualified applicants. The suggestions in this session are intended to address formatting and keyword search concerns applicants face. One note, often the application form in the system requires the same information as the resume. This does not mean that you can submit either the application or the resume. You must do both. My suggestion to expedite the application process is to keep a straight chronological version of your resume with a very simple format that will allow you to easily cut and paste from the resume to the application system. Then attach the version that is formatted for readers and the ATS into the ATS. Let's start with formatting issues. When you format your resume, you have to keep both the ATS and human readers in mind. You may like a certain layout that is optimal and probably appealing to the human reader, but if it's not compatible with ATS, it probably won't be seen by the human eye. Balance the look with the functionality. ATS read from left to right. They don't recognize columns or tables where there are wraparound lines. For example, in the version in this slide, the ATS would read this as oral and written Salesforce CRM conflict resolution teamwork, and then communication skills. For this reason, avoid tables, columns, or anything with a wraparound line. Personally, I avoid tables entirely and separate things using tabs rather than tables or columns. Additionally, ATS have problems with many special characters and/or graphic symbols, ampersands, check marks, and graphics like envelopes and phones don't always translate. Leaving them off does not change the power of your resume, so it's best to avoid them. Write out the word "and" instead of using an ampersand. Use a standard bullet rather than a check mark, and leave out graphics. Similarly, some ATS have problems with text boxes, headers, and footers. Your best bet is to do everything in the main document of a word processing package. I also recommend using Word over Google Docs. Google Docs is a great collaborative program, but it has quirks when translated into other systems. Though it can be appealing to use unique fonts to make our name or other parts of our resume stand out, some systems find certain fonts unreadable. Stick with standard fonts that are on every machine. The ones I know are universal are Times New Roman or Times, Cambria, Bookman, Helvetica, Arial, or Calibri. But if you are fully confident that your font is universal to all machines, you can use whatever you like. One note, Verdana is a universal font that is often used in website design. I don't list it because it's also a very large font. Though I don't typically recommend going smaller than 11 points for your fonts, if you choose a large font like a Verdana, go with the smaller size font. Shouldn't be any bigger than an 11 or 12 point print in one of the standard fonts that I've mentioned. Finally, and this is a significant change, now that predictive hiring tools are used more actively, it is recommended that you submit your resume in a .doc or a .docx format rather than a PDF. A PDF is a picture, which can make character recognition not as strong as in the .doc or .docx format, complicating keyword searches. For your information, The only difference between a .doc and a .docx format is the age of the word processing program you're using. Both are fully acceptable in ATS. Following these guidelines will enable the system to be able to read the resume. However, the next challenge is the predictive hiring tools. How do you make sure you will get through the data analytics that rule candidates down for employers? The first tip is one most job hunters don't want to hear because it is time consuming. Modify each resume you submit. The time you spend will be productive, as you should see a better return on resumes that are tailored to each job. Before you submit the resume, review the job posting for the role. Go through the description and highlight skill words and the technology mentioned in the job description. I will give you an example of how I do this on the next slide. As you look at materials you are submitting, resume and potentially the cover letter as well, incorporate as many of those skill words and technology references as possible. Use the exact language they use, as that is what they are likely to keyword search on. If you've done something similar but don't feel you can use the exact language, address the concept in the language you're comfortable with. For example, if you lead a project, but you were appointed to do so by your manager who participated in the activity, though the job description may say manage, you may want to stick with lead, or if you are more skilled in something like Prezi versus PowerPoint, put Prezi, but then put presentation software next. So somebody unfamiliar with Prezi will know that it's a similar program to PowerPoint. Repeat skill words as frequently as you can in your descriptors. In the past, it was recommended that you only state something once. This was to keep down the length. However, repetition is now potentially helpful. Some ATS score resumes based not on the percentage of words that appear, but on the number of times that concept appeared. Not only on the percentage of words that appear, but also on the number of times the concept appeared. If your employer uses one of these systems, which you won't know, having it multiple times will help you. To give you an example of the process of highlighting a job description, I'm showing part of an internship job description, highlighted to focus on the skills and qualifications the employer posted. In this case, the employer is Citizens Bank. As you see in the job description, sometimes there is a concept rather than a single word. That is what I provided in my interpretive notes on the right-hand side. Doing this will help you make your resume keyword ready. Additionally, keep a copy of this highlighted job description. If you get an interview, refer back to it. This will help you identify on what you need to focus on in your interviews. Though this session's focus is making resumes ATS friendly, I'm going to review basic principles that you should follow when writing a resume. First, there are 4 major grammar tips to follow. Number 1, resumes should be written in first person, but should not include pronouns. You are the subject and the reference point for every action in the resume, so I, me, and mine is not necessary. Next, when writing descriptors, action verbs should be used in first person. Action verbs with an added S at the end are in third person. For example, if you want to focus on writing skills, a descriptor should start with write documents, not writes documents. Third, watch your verb tenses. You have 3 acceptable options. You can use all descriptors for all positions in present tense, or all descriptors for all positions in past tense, or all descriptions for your current position or positions in present tense with descriptors for past positions in past tense. And the final grammar tip is use the active voice. When you write or speak in the active voice, you own the action. When you write or speak in the passive voice, you are being acted upon or impacted by the action. When selling yourself for a job, you want to own your skills, so the active voice is appropriate. Most people don't consciously write in the passive voice. They slip into it. Signs you are slipping into the passive voice include starting descriptors with things like responsible for, or having an ing at the end of your verbs, and/or using forms of the verb to be in the descriptor. Passive voice is also more wordy. So you kill two birds with one stone. Though you may want to include all relevant information, resumes should be as concise as possible. If you can say something in 5 words versus 10 words, say it in 5. When it comes to what to include in your resume, if you are unsure whether it belongs, ask yourself this quick question. How will this help the employer make a hiring decision about me? If it won't, leave it out. But if it does have relevance, be sure to include it. Remember, ATS screen people out based on qualifications. Don't dismiss something with the idea that you can talk about it in the interview. You have to get the interview first. Frequently, people express concern about the length of their resume. There is no one hard and fast rule. The truth is, it should be as close to 1 page as you can get it, while still including all the relevant information in a readable format. Personally, my resume is 4 pages, but all of the information is still relevant. The best thing you can do is have an objective review done of your resume. Career Development offers this service. Make the changes discussed in this session and then send your resume to me. You can do so at careerdevelopment@tesu.edu. I manage that account. Send it to my personal email or upload it to College Central Network. I will review it within 3 business days. If you don't receive it within 3 days, follow up with me, as there may have been a problem with me receiving it. Please keep in mind I am the only person in career development. If I'm away from the office, I try to put my away message on so you will know that there could be a delay. If you have a deadline and you know you will be sending it to me in a certain time frame, give me a heads up and I will do my best to meet that time frame. Don't hesitate to reach out with questions or to request the slides from this presentation. As you move through your job search, consider this quote from former U.S. Senator from New Jersey and professional basketball player Bill Bradley. Ambition is the path to success. Persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. Identify what you want and persist. You will achieve it.